Check this out. The great debate. What makes a classic album? Salaam Remi gives us his insight. It's all happening.
I have a question for you. It's adjacent to this conversation about Nas. But from your perspective, what or how would you define a classic album versus a non-classic album or a perfect album? To you, like, what's the difference? When does something become classic, in your opinion?
So I first of all, I'm gonna start with saying that that's gotten skewed in the last 20 years. And it's gotten skewed because everything is just so fast. Like, it's so quickly cooked. It's like, that was the best meal ever. It's like, you sure? We just ate it and you just made it and thought of it within the last 10 seconds. It's microwaved. Differently from when we had things that were tried and tested over time, and it was baked and brought from certain ingredients that was solid and tested over time. It was a different world. And I think that where we are now is that, I mean, how old does something have to be classic? Somebody will call something classic that happened 2 years ago, and they'll put out something today and say, this is a classic. Or, so then, nah, man, I had this 10-year career and I look back 10 years, 2010. I guess that's classic. I can't see it as classic because maybe I'm too young / old, you know what I'm saying? But I can say in, 2004, I thought Illmatic was a classic. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
it took you that long? It took you that long?
No, I thought Illmatic was classic soon, like early, because it was unprecedented when it happened. But my point is that if I'm looking back at 2010 and somebody tells me something is classic, I go, really? But if in 2004, I could tell 1994 was a classic. You know what I'm saying? I could tell that the Tribe records were classic. I could tell that the Wu records were classic. So all that to say, it's too broad. I don't think there's a definition, because what may be classic to one person may not be classic to another person. If you ask one body of people, they can't call it. I think ultimately when I consider classic out of my own work is when I can listen to something decades later and I still feel the same emotion I felt in it when I initially made it. The songs that I gravitate to, which would be, a Marvin Gaye album or Stevie Wonder record, and I could sit down and listen to it. Like, I heard Stevie say one time, he considers his body of work that early 70s stuff. And he says that when I listen to Visions in my mind, I still feel and see proverbially, like I still see the things that I felt when I initially made it. The mix was classic. The way that it's spaced out and, and then boom, and what I'd like to know, like the energy of the song is a classic, but the whole arrangement, the process of how it got there. So I just think I'm not with premature classics. I can't tell you what is and what isn't. I like Nostalgia Ultra a whole lot. That's a classic to me as far as what that moment is at this point. But I can't tell you that the other stuff is classic to me. But once again, this is about your personal taste. What's going to continue to give you that same feeling?
How long was it after the score came out, for example, did you feel like it was a classic?
That was 96. I personally wouldn't have really called it a classic until maybe it was like 5 or 6 years later, because I was able to really look at it and be away from it. At that point, I was still going, these people that I just had to buy curry chicken because nobody had no money, like a couple of weeks ago, do I know them? That was the first time I worked with an artist. And I looked at them on TV and like, dang, they're huge. Do I know them? Are y'all the same people? I had to get back in the room with them and be like, oh, they're the same people. They're still acting. And then I had to realize, wait a minute, I'm on the TV because I'm sitting next to these people who are now making the TV look different. You know what I'm saying? Like, the hip hop generation had taken over pop culture fully in the 90s. In the 80s, they were working on it. Run DMC's breakthroughs were Aerosmith and, the Will Smith aspect. But hip hop culture took over pop culture totally in the 90s and has proceeded to all the way to this day. So it's become hip hop generation. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'd say definitely it was a few years.
Live from Soul in the Horn. Break that one down for me. I thought the title was really interesting, but where did that come from?
Have you ever been to Soul in the Horn?
No.
Aha. So
Never been.
every Friday night, whenever I was in New York, I passed through. Big up D, Prosper, Natasha Diggs is, part of the foundation, and my boy Rich Nice. And they would always be like, yo, Richard hit me like, yo, come through, Soul in the Horn. We don't start till like 11 o'clock. So it was this party that was in New York, and they would be like, yo, come through the party. And I'd be like, all right, now I'm gonna be right there. But I know me, if I'm inside and it's like 11, and especially if it's a little frosty outside, I ain't going nowhere. So I finally made it to the party when Terrace Martin and myself put out an album. And I was like, yo, Terrace is playing at the Blue Note. He's doing 3 shows there. After the last show, we're going to come and find the party, and we're just going to go up on the stage and jam. And it's a party where Natasha or whoever the guest DJs are DJing, but then they also have horn players there. And the horn players are playing along with the DJ. So I have a whole album and a half of music that feels like that. And I was listening to it, and I was like, there's something here that I want to actually put forward, but I'm trying to figure out how to do it. And then D Prosper was like, yo, I want you to DJ at Soul in the Horn. So I started putting together a playlist, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to call this song Live from Soul in the Horn, because I feel like it's actually a cool little party that happens in New York that actually has its own vibe, that's doing its own thing. Who's running is my peoples. And it was like its own little place where you would go and you hear Expansions, then you hear a Tribe Called Quest record, then you hear Rapper's Delight. It was like it's a blend of cultural music, and they have their own community of people that's there. And it's literally like the way I saw it was as people who go out on Friday night for dinner and drinks, and then it's like, oh, where we going? Soul in the Horn. Like, it's already Friday, we got a day off, we get happy hour, we ate dinner, it's finished, it's 10 o'clock. Now let's go by this other party that's still happening. It might be jamming to 2, 3 in the morning, where there's a whole nother vibe. It's like the after hour spot. It's like the juke joint. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way I was. And the vocal texture on there was also something I used to hear my mom sing when I was little, and I would always be trying to figure out what is it. And I looked online, and I'm trying to find exactly who may have done something. It seems like it's an old folk thing, and I hear different people doing different variations of what it may be, but I just put it together the same way that I would always hear my mom singing to me as a kid. And then, Vince Henry, who's playing the saxophone on that song, actually was like, yeah, when I used to live uptown by Polo Grounds, there was a center over there, and that guy used to sing that thing, and my sisters and them knew that too. And I'm just like, you know what, this is culture. It's being replanted so that it can continue to grow into a whole other generation that may have never known.
Where's the party?
In Chelsea Market, in the Chelsea, I guess there's a club inside Chelsea Market, and sometimes it would be Williamsburg. So it's right like a couple of Soho House, but like on 15th Street, 10th Ave.
I had already moved to LA. That's why I hadn't. How long has that party been going on? Probably within the past 7 years. Gotta be.
Yeah, it's probably like 3-4 years at least.
Yeah, that's why. Okay, I'm sitting there wondering because I spent 10 years in New York. That's where my roots are, and I'm like, man, I've never even heard of Soul in the Horn. I haven't even seen that.
A little spot. Like I said, big up to the folks and the family. So I was like, we're gonna put it there. In the video, a lot of footage from there, plus some other stuff added in. I have a little clip done for it, but it's just big it up. Like I said, it's just something that's really dope. Somebody's doing a party, and there's a horn player. So horn players even playing along with the performers.
I mean, that's really all I have around the project. Is there anything else that you want to emphasize, you want to point out? Is there a couple of moments on here that, I mean, you close with, and you have Sandra Bland on the outro. I think that's a critical moment.
Yes, and I had the first 10 seconds of it on the Is It Because I'm Black video, but that whole thing is like, what she's saying, I need your help. And I really wanted to get it out before Election Day, but the retrograde told me to push it to 11/11/2020 because it made more sense. And yeah, 7 days after that 3 to kind of shake it all off and then come out fresh. So I'm doing that. But Yonder is actually another important moment for me. African People Were Chronics is dope, but Going Up Yonder is just one of those things. It's this church song that I knew always growing up. And Nas and I had actually recorded the initial version of that maybe like 4 years ago, like when right around like the time when Philando Castile had died in Minnesota. And we were just sitting down talking, you know, Nas and I go through musical phases where we just all over the place. And I was like, yo, he was like, yo, that song reminds me of my mother so much. And it was just like, it just took us to that place where I loved going up yonder when I was a kid, but I didn't even realize what the lyrics were about. And at the time I was like, you know what, I'll get Jennifer Hudson to sing on it. But I wanted to wait until I knew he was gonna put it out. So now during the pandemic, once again, you know, me and Jennifer are close. So I'd actually spoken to her. I was like, yo, would you set up the mic at your house? Because you don't need to be going to nobody's studio right now. Like, set it up and you can record vocals right at your house, do what you got to do. She's like, yeah, you know what, Salaam? And she had it, and she's playing Aretha, so she had a room set up with her organ and a piano, and she's putting drums over there. I was like, put the little microphone in there, and you can actually record your vocals at home and at least get enough done. At least definitely demos, but you could do real stuff. So I set her up early in the pandemic, not knowing I was going to necessarily do this. And then once she had the mic set up, I was like, you know what? I kind of need you to do this going up yonder for me. And that's what she did, you know. Wow. And it actually got recorded and put forward. But that's actually a song for me that it makes me feel good. And I feel like, you know, once again this year, us as a community, we've suffered mass grief and not been able to express it and come together and do what we normally would do. So Going Up Yonder is dedicated to all the entertainers, all the people that have lost their lives to social violence, and just like I said, us going through so many things as a community and not having the opportunity to do what we normally would do.
That's beautiful. I think this this project, I feel like it speaks to me, and I hope that it speaks to as many people as possible as well. I think I love hearing you talk about how you're not doing this for any other reason other than for your people and for yourself. And I think that's where beauty and history begins and is made.
Thank you. And then also, you know, Black on Purpose. I have my Black on Purpose hoodies that I'm doing.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna order one of those. They're on your website?
louderthanliferecords.com.
Okay.
They're all there. But also, all the proceeds from this are going back to charity. You know what I'm saying? They're putting it back into different foundations. Not any one place. You know, some is going to the Sandra Bland Scholarship Fund that's set up at Prairie View, A&M. Some of it's going to other, you know, things that different artists on the album are associated with. But I'm definitely putting it all right back into the community.
That's dope. Well, as always, sir, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to say? I don't want to cut you off too fast.
No, I think that's about it. I think we covered all the songs, Black Progress, Tear It Down. It is what it is. We here.
That no peace, man. I'm telling you, that no peace.
I'm ready.
Crazy. Tell Mumu I said that verse is everything it needed to be.
I'm definitely letting her know. She's really excited.
Word. All right. I appreciate you as always, brother.
Thank you.
All right, peace.